Hello and welcome to another episode of Top Deck, the series where we take a look at some of the leading TCG deck lists. So this time we have Joe Ray's third place list from the Manaflux regional a couple of weekends ago. This was the date immediately before the current ban list. But it's a good showcase of the sort of Mech Knight builds that are floating around, and obviously they haven't been touched by the list, so they've certainly got a lot of options available to them. As per usual, we'll run through the list itself, go over the siding strategy and the rounds that Joe played, and then we'll get some queries into him and find his answers. So we start off with triple Blue Sky, triple Nightfall, the one Red Moon and one Indigo Eclipse, fairly staple for the lineup. Triple Invoker, triple Ash, triple Droll is a little bit more unusual, and double Ghost Ogre here. Triple Invocation, triple Meltdown, triple Terraforming, double Desires, double Mind Control, potentially a Space Sting here, triple Scapegoat, triple Cyclone in the main is pretty interesting, and then a triple Impermanence. So 11 hand traps within the main deck here. For the extra deck, triple Macabre, one Purgatrio and one Magellanica, one Radiant, double Link Spider, one Decode Talker, one Underclock, one Proxy, a Gaia Saber, a Griffin, Firewall, and Borrowload. So only one Nightmare in here, just as a Griffin, so we'll ask him about the smaller Nightmares potentially as well. So he's got some Chariot targets here, so an Isolde and an Electromite, then double Gamma Seal and Kumungus, all of these able to be beaten over by the Mech Knights, double Sphere Mode, triple Cherries, double Twisters, one Raigeki, and double Dimensional Barrier. So for the side deck strategy, we'll start off with True Draco. So for going first, he puts in the Kaiju and the Twin Twisters, taking out the one Blue Sky, one Indigo Eclipse, a Meltdown, and two Mind Control. And this is going to be fairly indicative of the sort of stuff that he's taking out. So going second is exactly the same. For against Pendulum, going first he's putting in the Cherries obviously, and the Dimensional Barriers because you can stun your opponent out of a turn and potentially the game. Same side outs. And then going second, keeping the Cherries there, and then switching out the Barriers for Sphere Modes because you just out the big board instead of stopping it from happening. And then he's taking out the Cyclones because you don't really care about the scales for the second turn onwards. It's only really in the first turn when you want to hit the scales and stop them from assembling the board in the first place. For against Spiral, no changes when going first. We're going second, putting in the outs to the big boards, so the Sphere Modes, Kaiju, the Raigeki, that kind of stuff, and then taking out the same stuff as before for the Pendulum matchup. Then for Gookie, putting in the Cherries obviously, and the Isolde, taking out the Cyclones and the Gaia Saber there, Gaia potentially being the least useful or accessible of the extra deck that's really relevant. And then going second, exactly the same there. For against Altergeist, going first, putting in the Twin Twisters, taking out the Mind Controls, and the same going second. Just being able to out the multiple traps at the same time is really crucial, especially when you can hit something like a spoofing after it's resolved the cost, so then you don't have to worry too much about that, which is pretty cool. For the rounds that he played, so this is the same, pretty much the same deck that he took to two regionals. He went to Lincoln first and went 5-1, taking 6th place, and then at the Manaflux regional, Newcastle one, he went 5-1 again, and took 3rd place on the tiebreakers. So for Lincoln, round 1 against Blue Eyes 2-0, round 2 against Altergeist 0-2, which I think at the time he didn't really know what was going on with the deck because he hadn't got a full idea of how it worked, but he managed to build that up before the second event. Then Tell Knight 2-0, Trickstar 2-0, Domain Monarch 2-0, and ABC 2-1 with the game loss taking the game from him. For the Manaflux regional, so round 1 against Spiral 2-0 them, round 2 against Altergeist, with the built up knowledge of the decks managed to 2-0 them here. Round 3 against True Draco 2-1 them. Round 4 against Zexal Pendulum went 1-2. Round 5 against True Draco went 2-1, and round 6 against Magispector went 2-1. So let's get some questions and comments from Joe. So he's not coming on for a chat this time, but we have got a series of questions that I sent him on Facebook, and we can get his responses there. So the first thing I asked was, how was the event overall? He said that at Lincoln, his loss came from Altergeist. He was ignorant on how the deck played, and even though he had a rough idea of what the monsters did, he was swiftly 2-0'd. At Manaflux, he was a lot more prepared and won the Altergeist matchup, as we saw. At Manaflux, his only loss was to Luke, the winner of the regional, and his teammate. He went to game 3, where his opponent made him go. First. So Luke had the reboot for the D barrier and basically just killed him that turn, playing around any potential scapegoat that Joe might have had. So then I asked him, why did you opt to play Mech Knight Invoked? So after the Leeds regional where he played Trickstar, he was able to pick up the engine and basically play it since then. It was at the first regional where he used it, he lost the round in the mirror, costing him the top cut, and his opponent knew the deck so much better, so he pointed out any of the errors that potentially he'd made in the siding, and that allowed Joe to learn significantly from another player from the deck. He really enjoys playing it, and it can pull out a lot of OTKs, especially more often than people really expect, so it's great at breaking down boards as well. So you may have noticed with this list there are 11 hand traps in the main, including the opponents, which is quite a lot for what we normally see, so I asked him why he decided to run so many, and if any of them stood out during the event. He said he normally runs 9 hand traps, but with so many True Draco that he knew would be at the event, he wanted to main the draws. Impermanence replaced the Veilers that he ran before, but it wasn't strictly better than it. Though it may just be the Invoked specific thing where Veiler is a light monster for your Macabre, so if you don't have it then it can be a serious issue that you feel on multiple occasions. However, he felt that Impermanence had the benefit of being usable obviously in his own turn, so being a trap for discarding for Macabre is good as well. And it also comes up when True Draco would summon something like a Monster Spell Immune Masterpiece back when that was still around. And obviously they can still do it with Metaltron if you ever seen that come up. So question 4, he's only running 2 Mind Control in the main, and he said that this was pretty much just due to space. He didn't want to go much over 40, but he was set on the hand traps. Then he's also got the 3 Cyclone in the main, so I wanted to know why he decided to run this kind of spell trap removal for the event. He said that the Cyclones were part of the reason that there aren't 3 Mind Control. At Lincoln he knew the meta would be very diverse, and at Manaflux he knew it would be mostly Draco, so he kind of felt that they were necessary. At Lincoln he only played 2, and he wished he played the 3rd anyway, so that he could see it more often. Then the previous lists that we've seen on the channel that we've had a Mech Knight Invoked list often tended to run stuff like Instant Fusion and Call by the Grave in the main to make sure that Alistair didn't get hit by a hand trap, and that you could play around those issues that the deck potentially has, which you can see here that he didn't decide to run, so I want to know why he went with the lack of these. He said that another of the space issues was trying to accommodate the extra hand traps and the Cyclones, because of that you can't really fit these things in as well. When he first picked up the deck he played Instant Fusion for Millennium and Thousand Eyes, but he cut them from the list fairly soon after that. They certainly aren't bad choices, and he may try Instant again. With the current format looking to be very heavily shaped by hand traps, he finds himself running Call by the Grave anyway. For the extra deck, obviously you can see he ran the Magellanica and no Elysium, which is the kind of thing that we normally see. He said he found himself wanting to summon Magellanica to banish Earth monsters more than he ever needed to summon Elysium anyway, especially versus something like 60 card, where it's a really big monster, so you can swing over Omegas, plus he had to banish the Mizukis from the graveyard, which is crucial. Elysium has been in previous versions of the deck, but it's the sort of thing that he might be switching in again in the future, but he's not sure about it at the moment. As for the rest of the extra, it seems fairly in line with previous lists we've seen, except for maybe the Gaia Saber and the addition of Griffin thanks to Flood. I wanted to know if Griffin was any good for him, and if perhaps he'd consider playing the Small Nightmares. So he said that with the addition of Griffin, a Scapegoat and a normal summon, which is something like the Alistair, lets him make Link Spider, Griffin and Macabre, gives him a draw and resets the Scapegoat, or you can reset anything else, any other spell trap with the Griffin as well. The Gaia Saber comes up when you flip a Scapegoat with Macabre already in the extra monster zone, and it can be involved in the Griffin play as well. He would like to find space for the Cerberus or Phoenix, and potentially they could take the Gaia's spot. So there are multiple 2-ofs in the side that you can see, and the Raigeki as well as a board wipe, but there's no evenly matched in here, which is potentially due to the fact that it's obviously a Mech Knight deck. So we said that it's very strange within this deck. It's obviously a card that you want going second, yet your engine wants your opponent to have a lot of cards on the field. So cards like Mind Control let you use your opponent's resources a lot of the time and go for the OTK. If you successfully summon Purgatrio and your opponent has a board, then you've probably won. If Guki become a big deck to beat, then it may be necessary. Raigeki, he said, was definitely a mistake. He felt at the time that he wanted a board wipe in the side, but he found himself not siding it in. He would rather have had another sphere mode in case of Guki coming up, or potentially a third dimensional barrier. As for any changes that he'd make following the event, if he were to play the same event again, he'd make the changes that he's already mentioned, and going forward, the deck may have to play evenly and max out on sphere mode in order to deal with the link spam decks that are popping up all over the place. With Masterpiece gone, the Kaijus can potentially come out, making the side a little bit more roomy, and main deck wise, we'll just have to see which hand traps are the most effective, moving towards the UK Nats. As for the hardest and easiest matchups for him, pre-ban list he thinks that Draco was the hardest, but only for game 1. Post-side he definitely felt that like it was in his favour, however obviously Rivalry is still a card. Trickstar always feels like a close matchup for him. Resolving Scapegoat is massive for either side. As for the shoutouts that Joe wanted to make, big thanks to the Game Store and Manaflux for hosting the regionals, especially Manaflux who support the team. Shoutouts to the locals at The Rift, and well done to Luke, Alex and Carl who also topped. So congratulations Joe on getting your 3rd place top with this deck. It'll be interesting to see how it develops towards the UK Nats event itself, and congratulations again and good luck to you in future events. Thanks for watching this episode of Top Deck. If you have any comments or suggestions that you would like to make, leave them in the comment section down below. Check out the description for details of how you can get involved in this series. You can enter by voice interview, or instead you could just send all of your information over Facebook Messenger. Anything like that will be absolutely fine. If you want to see anything in particular from the upcoming series, then be sure to get in touch, and I'll see you guys in the next video.